and Jada. We also have anyway. Which one? Yes. If you can, please speak in Chinese. You will be very welcomed. I also believe you can. Fast. Stay very fast. Yeah, Vimala is here.
Question? Yes, yeah. Yes.
Okay, let's
Please,
go
yes.
on. Let's go on. Just now is group 1, Amber. Thank you, Amber. 谢谢 Amber. Very well. And go on that with Amber. Group 1 still have one student that is Tracy. Yes, it's Tracy. Welcome. In Chinese, we believe you can.
谢谢. So I'm answering them in the questions that you gave us. So 我们了解了心理领袖旅行和鼓舞. So that's what we learned about. And the second question was the problems that you met during the class. Well, 我忘记了很多汉语. So I forgot my Chinese. The next question was the new things that you have learned. Well, 学习说小语文课和说很少. And then the most interesting part of the class was 学习不同的事物，如打喷嚏和学分系统. And the next question was your teacher's teaching style and way. 他是很多的. Sorry. 他是互动的，我很喜欢. The next question was, what do you want to know more about during your holiday class? 我想学画赛. And the last one was, second to last one, what's your opinion on the holiday class? 我喜欢很好玩. And to my teacher, what do I want to say? 谢谢老师，你的课很有趣，我学得很好。
谢谢陈老师， 我忘记了，对不起，我很喜欢，谢谢。
Amber and Tracy 非常好啊 ，very well，非常棒，非常棒 ，great。A good beginning. Okay, our group one give a very good start. Okay, go on is our group two. Group two now we have, oh, Jada, go away. Jada is a very nervous. Jada just go away. It's okay, it's okay. I will ask her later. And now we go on is our group three. Let's see group three. The students also leave.
Maybe have teacher because you have group one finished. You can have the teacher.
Yeah.
The teacher to make some comments.
Now
and say
let's
something.
welcome the group one teacher, Teacher Chen, to say something to us. Welcome.
Hey, hello everyone. Hi, and I'm Chen Mocheng. I'm the teacher of the class 1, and I had 2 lessons with Amber and Tracy, and in these classes they are so enthusiastic and they can practice its activity. And I'm so delighted that they almost remembered everything about these classes. And we, at the first class, we simulated the process of flying to Shanghai and take 高铁, just from Shanghai to Suzhou, and then 打网约车 or 打出租车 to school. And at the second class, we also simulated the life in China and learned how to order food in restaurant or order takeout and so on. And we learned new words and sentences and some cultural and the changes in China now. And I hope that this knowledge will be helpful for you to come to China next year and learn Chinese in the future. And I also hope that you will find learning Chinese is interesting as after these classes. And I want to say thank you, Amber and Tracy. I really enjoyed my time with you, and even though it was only 2 classes. And in the future, if you have any questions about learning Chinese, you can contact me through WeChat or email. And I also want to thank you, Ms. Lee and Ms. Wei, for helping us solve a lot of problems. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Teacher Chen. Give a very good start.
谢谢。
Thanks a lot, Amber and Tracy also learned very well. Almost remembered what have learned. Especially when we only have 2 classes, and I think they got a lot. Great.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. 谢谢. Okay, now let's go on the group 2. Let me check. The group 2 students is not here. Maybe group 3. Group 3 is no, maybe later. And let's go on is Bridget. Are you here? Could you hear me? Share with us something.
Yeah, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, great.
Okay. Right. Good morning, 早上好. I will attempt to answer the questions in the order in Chinese. Okay. Okay, I don't know how to say this in Chinese, but I would say the only problem in our class, in vacation class, was that all of the students were not able to attend due to various reasons. I would say, 这堂课很有趣, they're very fun.
Great.
Give me a moment. Give me a moment. We learned a lot. We learned many different things in our class. but I will say 很多菜都很有趣. Which is the many dishes that we learned. And to my teacher, 谢谢你教我们新东西，谢谢你。
好，谢谢，非常棒 ，very well, great, 很棒啊 ！Just believe yourself, be more confident. You can do that. Great, and our other students someone have the emergency. Maybe they will go back later. And now we would like our student teacher to share something with that. And so now welcome the group 2. Group teacher group 2 is the teacher Mu. Welcome.
Hey, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I'm very happy to participate with this program. During this program, I made the friends from Barbados, Jed and Seth. Jed is very activity and Seth is very kind. And I think that Jed is very smart. When I talk about Taobao and Pinduoduo, she has already knows this and she can discuss this with me. I think it is very good. And I hope the biggest regret for me is a little time for the class. I didn't have a long time to teach with Jed and Seth. And I think if we have opportunity and we can meet in China in the near future. And however, we can keep in touch on our WeChat. And I'm very happy to give them help during their learn Chinese. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Though our class is very short, and we believe our students also get a lot from those 2 classes. Thank you, Teacher Mo. And go on is our group 3. Group 3 is Teacher Lee. Welcome.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, I'm Li Jialo. I have 2 classes with my students. I think they were very positive and lovely. We discussed the life in China and the food in China. British and Rimala were very smart. I think they can learn Chinese well. And I'm very glad to have the opportunity to participate in the program. Thank you, the teacher Lee and the teacher V. It's my first time to teaching Chinese in English, so I have the valuable experience. I hope if I have the chance, I can come to the Barbados to see the beautiful scenery. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Teacher Lee. Teacher Lee also give a big help to our group students. And now Rimala is back. Rimala, would you like to say something to share with us? Welcome. Rimala, could you hear me? Yes or no? Maybe the internet problem. Okay, let's go on.
Yes, Ramala was having some issues with the connection.
Okay.
So the application kept closing on her. So just give her a moment.
It's okay. Okay, go on. It's our group 4 teacher. Yuan, welcome.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Good morning, teachers and students. I'm Yuan Chunlei. I'm a graduate student at Beijing Cultural and Language University. And I want to say I feel very happy to be participating in this project, to be a member of our Barbados swing project. And then I feel very thankful to our teacher, Li, teacher Wei, and the teacher Wen, because you provided us with a chance. And although we have only 2 classes with the students, but I think it's very a good chance to teach me, but not also we taught to the students some culture about China or some words, some sentence, but also I think I really learn a lot, such as I really realized that it's the teacher and the students, the both sides to make a class. It's not just belong to the teacher. And I think the interaction is very important for a successful class. And also, I think I made good friends. I have class with Farhan and Farhan and Mohammed, the 2 students. Although they didn't come today, but they are passionate. But I can feel that their passion to learn Chinese. On class, we have very, I think maybe nearly perfect interaction with them. And also after class, we may share our video or pictures around us. I think it's very good, made good friends. And also at last I want to say although we have only 2 classes, but I think we really gain a lot. So I want to say thank you for all the teachers, the students. Yeah, thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Teacher Yuan. And for the group 4, at first there are several questions about our group 4, and Teacher Yuan also ask help from me, and then actually in the end, and the students also join the holiday class, and the teacher also very, very patient with the students. Thanks a lot, prepared a lot. We only have 2 classes, and the student teacher pay a lot on that. Thanks a lot for our 4 student teachers. Thanks a lot. We are also very glad to have the next opportunity to learn together. Maybe when the holiday is coming, we can connect together. We have another opportunity to learn together. And now we also have local teachers. Alex want to share something with us. Welcome, Alex. Alex is also my partner.
Yes. Could you help me to share, please, Grace?
Oh yeah, sorry, I always forgot.
院长要帮他。
Yes, sorry. Yeah. Good. Go ahead, please.
Okay, 可以。
Yeah.
Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yes,
大家好，我汉语名字叫爱乐。But my name in English is Alexandria Payne. I am a Chinese language teacher at the Confucius Institute. For the purpose of our Chinese teachers and our students, partially this is going to be in Chinese. It helps me to practice, and the PowerPoint itself is in English. So at least for the students, even if you don't understand everything I'm saying, you will still be able to follow along my presentation. So I'm just going to be talking about teaching Chinese, my experience so far. I haven't been teaching Chinese very long. But I'll get into that a little bit. So this presentation is just going to be the introduction, a very short presentation about teaching Chinese for native Chinese speakers as well as local Chinese teachers. We have a Q&A section in case you guys have any questions for me, and then that's the end of the presentation, so nothing too long. So I'm going to get started now. So a little bit about me. 我住在中国六年。
艾乐，我们现在就看的第一章，你没有播放。
好，有时候有问题。 我觉得这样
可以了。
我先给对 ，right，我在中国6年，我2014年出中国，我得了那个奖学金，中国政府奖学金，我在新都大学学了1年，然后我的汉语老师他是武汉人，然后他告诉我，我觉得你学得很好，可以试一下，然后然后我就得了那个奖学金，我觉得特别高兴。所以我在中国，我在华中师范大学学习。汉语老师应该知道，那个华中师范大学他们特别关注那个教汉语的那个方面，所以我觉得这个piqued my interest in Chinese language and teaching Chinese. Before I didn't think about it, but after my school, I went to Central China Normal University. For the students that maybe did not understand what I said just now, I studied in China for about 6 years. My school was Central China Normal University, and a normal university is focused on teaching. To teachers, and I had a focus on teaching Chinese language. So I did that. I finished, I came back, and I was lucky enough to get the job at the Confucius Institute. And I've grown so much since I've been there. I've only been there a year, so I've only been teaching Chinese a year. And I feel like I've learned so much in that year, even more than I could have learned while I was studying. I studied for 6 years, and I felt like I learned more just by actually teaching than being in a classroom. So obviously you guys know my native language is English, and there's a reason why I pointed that out, because it affects how you teach Chinese as well as how you learn Chinese, right? So I'm going to move forward now. So for our student teachers, I wanted to give you guys some tips for teaching Chinese, because you guys are Chinese natives, and sometimes it could be a little bit difficult at first teaching in English because it's not your first language, and most of the time you kind of have to speak in English when you are teaching Chinese, because the students don't know Chinese as yet. So some of the things that I've learned teaching Chinese people English is that you have to understand your students. That's the first thing that you need to do. You have to be able to relate to them. You have to find some kind of common ground. If students don't feel comfortable in your class, they won't learn to the best of their abilities. So that moves into connecting with your students, whether that's doing some research on the country they come from. So for instance, our students are from Barbados. You could talk about the scenery of Barbados versus the scenery in China. You could speak about foods. So I was very happy to hear that you guys did like the food in China and stuff like that, because that's a great way that you could connect with your students, because everybody loves to eat, everybody loves food. So that's a really good topic to start on when you're teaching Chinese. Learn their language. It's very important to learn the other person's language. When I was teaching English in China, a lot of the times using English didn't help. I had even though I was teaching English, I still had to revert to using Chinese. And that's because when you're learning, you still need your native language to help you out sometimes. And there were some concepts I couldn't explain in English because my students weren't able to understand. So I had to use Chinese. So it's very helpful if you know English. But from what I hear, all the student teachers here, their English is pretty good. So that would definitely be helpful moving on. Also, know your material. You guys are native Chinese speakers, so you already kind of understand how Chinese works. But teaching it on a grammatical format, the aspects of actually the foundation of Chinese, you have to be very, very good at that, because just being a native speaker is not enough. It's not enough for me just to know English to teach English, because being a teacher and just knowing English is two different things. So you should always be prepared, have your materials, your teaching materials, always present, and continue to review them so that you are making sure that you learn new information all the time. So difficulties for native Chinese speakers and difficulties for non-native Chinese speakers. So some of these are things that I noticed with some of our teachers, the teachers here from China at the Institute. And then some of these are problems that I have as a local teacher teaching Chinese. So I wanted to speak a little bit about that. So for native Chinese speakers, teaching style might be a little difficult. 我在中国的时候，我发现你们学习的方法比我们的有很大的不同。第一次我在中国学习，我好像每个课我在 fail. I failed every class. And that's because I couldn't understand the teaching style. And that's something you have to be very careful with as a teacher. Your student might not always understand the way how you teach. So maybe learning how a Bayesian teacher teaches versus a Chinese teacher, that could be helpful. So a lot of the time, sometimes students would tell me, I don't understand why this is this way, or I don't understand how this is this way. And that's not because they can't understand, is they don't understand the way that it's being taught. So when you are teaching locals as a native Chinese speaker, that's something that maybe you should keep in your head. Obviously, communication is one of the biggest factors when it comes to teaching. The language barrier is very important. So again, like I said, just learning the language helps a lot. You wouldn't have as much as a problem if if you forget how to say something in Chinese, or the students, or you're explaining something in Chinese and maybe the students aren't understanding, then you could always switch to English and they'll be able to understand. So that helps. So that is a hindrance. So I think the answer to that is just to learn as much as your student's language as you can, or at least to be able to explain things for them. Another thing I've found that some of the native Chinese speakers might have a problem with is technology. So that is, for instance, our Chinese teachers at the Confucius Institute, we use Google Classrooms here in Barbados. But obviously, Google is not something that you use in China. So sometimes it might be hard for them to navigate. Or like, I know for Ava, setting up the classes and stuff, she had to learn a whole new system, the e-learning system. And she did such a really good job in a short space of time. But that's something that might be a little bit difficult for a native Chinese speaker going into a different country to teach Chinese. Another thing is they might not be trained, and this goes for both teachers. This is not just for Chinese teachers. This is also for local teachers. Sometimes, a lot of the times, we are just people that know Chinese or people that know English. So we go into teaching, but we might not necessarily be trained to be teachers. So the way to resolve that is to do as much workshops, as much classes, as much activities as you can to help you improve your teaching skills, and that will greatly help your students as well. Strengths of native Chinese speaking teachers. So there are a lot of good things that I noticed about the native Chinese teachers as when we compare them to maybe the local teachers. So the first one is obviously they're Chinese, so their Chinese is excellent. And that helps a lot, learning from an actual Chinese person versus a local teacher. Our local teachers will always do our best, and we have really great local teachers as well. But obviously we will never be able to speak Chinese the way a Chinese person can. So that is one of the ways that one of the strengths of a native Chinese teacher. They can ensure that students' Chinese is authentic. So you can make sure that they're learning the words the correct way. For local teachers, sometimes if you have learned a word the incorrect way from the beginning, you might go on to teaching the word in the incorrect way. But for a Chinese teacher, they already know what the correct way is. So you make sure that everything that your student learns is actually authentic and true Chinese. They can teach students Chinese culture accurately. So for instance, you went through a simulation of how to get to Suzhou from, traveling to get to school. And that was a way that only a Chinese teacher maybe can tell you, unless maybe you are a local teacher that have lived in Suzhou. I've never been to Suzhou, so I wouldn't have been able to tell you accurately how to get from Barbados to Suzhou, for instance. I didn't even know that Suzhou doesn't have an airport, and I lived in China. So that's another good thing about having an actual Chinese teacher. They know way more about Chinese culture than we would ever know. So you make sure that you get the real true experience learning Chinese culture. And they can answer questions about Chinese culture better. I know for me, it's good having Ava as my partner because we are partners in most of our classes. Because sometimes the things that I've learned while I was in China have changed since I've left China. But because she's Chinese and she still has her connection to China like that, she's able to correct me if I say something wrong, or if something has changed, she's able to tell me what the new thing is. So that's also a good, the strength of having an actual a native Chinese teacher. So for non-native speakers, and these are things that I noticed about myself as a local teacher, and looking at the other local teachers that we have at the Institute. So the Chinese is not authentic, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but obviously Chinese is our second language, so it will never be as concrete as having an actual teacher from China, so that's sometimes a little bit of a hindrance. Also, you have the influence of our mother tongue. So when I speak Chinese, it sounds very different from when Ava or Chen Lao Shi or Mu Lao Shi, it will sound way different than how they speak Chinese, because that's actually their native language. You'll always hear some kind of influence from maybe like my Beijing, or maybe just my native, or just English. It'll always kind of creep into there. So that's a little bit of a downside, but nothing too bad to make you not want to learn from a local teacher or anything like that. Again, as I mentioned before, we would be unfamiliar with some aspects of Chinese culture. So obviously China is huge. The culture is extensive. The history of China is very, very long. There are just some things about Chinese culture that a local teacher might not be able to understand, or they might just simply not know. But if you have a native Chinese speaker teacher, they will know way more about Chinese culture. So that's one of the downsides of being local. And as I mentioned before, some teachers may not be as trained, because you might just know Chinese and then you go into teaching, as opposed to actually study to be a teacher and then go into training. So sometimes you could come across that. Strengths of non-native Chinese speaking teachers. When we look at actual teaching, we can relate better to students. So the good thing about having partners like Ava and I, whereas Ava could correct me on the Chinese side, I can correct Ava on the Beijing side. So there's sometimes she might want to explain something to the students and she doesn't know how to. Then I can step in and I say, oh, it's like going down the road to see this buddy, or it's pronounced like a particular word that we say in Barbados. And that helps your students to connect to Chinese language a little bit more, because it's like, okay, it's similar to a lot of things that we already know. So that's a strength of non-native Chinese speakers. We understand the learning style of students. I grew up in Barbados. I've learned majority of my life here, primary school, secondary school, a little bit of university. So I understand how our teachers teach and I understand how our students learn. And I bring a lot of that into teaching Chinese, because the Beijing students would be way more accustomed to how they learned from before. So I'm able to amalgamate the things that I learned while in China with how I learned when I was in Barbados. And that I might be able to understand that a lot better than maybe a teacher from China. So that's another strength of a non-native Chinese teacher. We can better understand the technologies the student use, because a lot of the times we also use them when we were younger or when we were in school. As I said, maybe the Chinese teachers might not be able to do that as well because they grew up in China and they use their versions of the technology. So that's another asset for non-native Chinese speaking teachers. Also, you can connect with Chinese culture and local culture. So for a Chinese native, they know Chinese, they know China, but they don't know Barbadian culture. For somebody like me or Mr. Yearwood, because I know he studied in China too, you get the best of both worlds. So we've actually experienced life in China, but we've lived in Barbados all of our life. So it's a lot easier for us to connect the dots and see where China is similar to Barbados. See where even Chinese language is similar to Bajan language or English. And that makes it easier for the students to understand too, because part of learning is not just grammar and sentence structure. It's also about connecting with what you're learning, connecting with the culture, connecting with the people. So it makes it helpful for the students. So for teachers in general, both local and native Chinese speaking teachers, be patient. Teaching requires a lot of patience. Because students might not always get what you're trying to say. Chinese is vastly different from English. There's a lot of things that are so different, and it's not always easy for as a native English speaker to get everything that's in Chinese. So it takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of repetition. It takes a lot of going over things a lot of the time to make sure that your student understands you. And when you are patient, your student feels that, and it helps them to connect with you more, and they feel more comfortable. Because I know that if I get something wrong, my teacher is gonna wait until I get it right. So I don't have to feel bad, or I don't have to feel nervous, because I know that my teacher is patient with me and I can learn correctly. And I can see that the student teachers here have been patient, because all the students have enjoyed learning from you guys, and it says a lot about you. So speak at a reasonable pace, especially when you're speaking Chinese. We have the same problem when we're teaching English as well. Your instinct is always to just rattle off and, which way she hand you. But when you do it that fast, students wouldn't be able to understand what you're saying. So you kind of have to keep in your head, this is a first-time learner. They're learning. They might not always be able to understand what I'm saying, not because they don't know the word, but because maybe I am speaking a bit too fast. So that's something to keep in mind. Always engage with your students. I was glad to hear that a lot of the student teachers said that they've gained friends. So that's good, because you always want to feel connected to your students. You don't want to feel like a stranger. You don't want to feel too up here and your students are down here, because that makes you less relatable to them. And when you're not relatable to somebody, they don't feel inclined to learn from you, or they don't feel inclined to be around you. So the more you engage with your students, the more you get to know them, the more they get to know you, the more comfortable your classroom setting is. And that makes it easier for everybody involved. It makes it easier for you to teach, and it makes it easier for students to learn. You keep your lessons at a steady pace. So even though you guys just had 2 classes, you were able to fit a lot into those 2 classes. And that's because you probably just did a little bit of everything to give them a taste of Chinese culture, of Chinese language, without making it seem like you are overloading them. And that's really good. So you want to keep your lessons at a pace that suits your students. Interact with the local teachers. So if you need help, and this is for if you guys decide to come back to do this program again, or if you have an opportunity to teach in Barbados. Local teachers are your friends. They'll be able to help you navigate local culture and understand your students better. And it also works for the local teachers as well, because it helps them practice their Chinese. It helps them keep in touch with China and Chinese culture and learn even more because, as I said, China is very big. The culture is very vast, and the history is very long. So there's always something new to learn. Like even working with Ava, I've learned a lot more than I knew when I was actually living in China because she is teaching, and as she's teaching, I'm also learning. So you learn from both sides, so you can interact with the local teachers. And the most important thing is to just have fun. Just have fun with students. I love the activity of doing a simulation of walking the students through how to get to Suzhou. I think that's a really fun activity. So I encourage you guys to do more things like that if you get the opportunity to teach English students again, or even if you get the opportunity to come back and teach another set of Swen students. Employ a lot of fun activities. Activities are great for students. It helps them remember. You guys were saying that you're surprised that your students remember so much. I guarantee you it's because of that activity. It's something that is different, and it's something that will stick in their mind. So fun is always good when it comes to classrooms. So that's it for the presentation. We have the Q&A part now. And I just have some questions for the teachers to consider when you are teaching. And that is, what are some activities that you can use in class? What would you do to get to know your students? And what do you think is a great way to introduce Chinese culture to students? So I just wanted to leave those questions with you guys. You can feel free to answer them if you want to know. That would be nice. And it also opened the floor to anybody else who has questions. Questions for me about living in China, questions about my experience teaching Chinese language here. Anything you guys might want to know about the presentation.
Okay, great. 非常好. Our student teacher who have any questions about how to teach, or about the method or anything else, also can ask Alex. And Alex is my super partner. We together help each other. We help each other very well. And last semester we worked together, and this semester we will continue. And so the student teacher, if you have any questions about the class, we have during the holiday we have 2 classes, and what's the problem you have made, and what if you do not know how to sell it, maybe you can ask, and Alex will give some advice and give some help. 我们的小老师们有没有想问一问艾乐的？因为艾乐老师也非常的有经验，他在国内学完之后，然后到这边来到这边来教课，然后就是每一次艾乐老师的课堂就是非常用心，在最开始的时候文化部分，他的那个文化部分就会 control a lot of students. Students very interested in that part because the teacher prepared very well. 我们的老师们有那个想要问的，也可以借这样的一个机会。好的，
也可以用汉语，也可以。
对，用汉语也可以，艾乐完全可以胜任。
对。
老师，我可以问一个问题吗？
好，可以。
其实说实话，对于时间的这个观念，我觉得差别真的很大。上课刚开始第一次上课的时候，他们说需要再等半个多小时。我其实当时是surprised, I'm so surprised. 就是第一次听到有学生跟你讲说，老师你要等我半个小时。
对，
just I feel shocked and a little bit uncomfortable. I think it's yes. Yeah. And it's not just the first class. The second class is just the same.
Did the student tell you? 他告诉你为什么了 ？The reason?
The reason is 老师， 我还没有起床。
Oh.
Didn't get up yet, so could you please give me extra 30 minutes? I just I just okay.
对，我觉得这个原因来自那个学习，不是学习，是个那个文化的区别，因为我们在这边觉得18岁以后，你就是大人，成年人，没有什么管你随便做可以，这是你的钱，如果你要学习就学习，不要学习不学习，所以我们有这个，我觉得这个跟文化有关系，我觉得不是学生不责任你，it's not that they don't respect you as a teacher， 就是他们 accustomed 这样做，我觉得，所以然后我们的老师在这边，学生在还是教，不管你在不在，如果你不来是你的事情，是你的事，然后还有那个有一些学生他们可能有其他的responsibilities， 可能有孩子或者什么的，所以你不知道他们为什么说我晚点起床或者什么的，可能他们在工作或者什么的，所以我们在这边，如果你是老师，你不太管这个东西，只有学生好好学习，他们除了成绩就可以了，所以我觉得这个是文化问题。我在中国也有这个问题，因为我们所有的事情应该告诉老师，如果你不来上课，还需要告诉老师，还有你应该问老师你可不可以不来上课。我觉得这个特别奇怪，我们20多岁怎么告诉老师我们应该不应该来学校或者什么的，但是这个就是文化的区别，所以现在我懂你们，所以我在中国的时候，我才明白啊，我应该这样做，但是我明白为什么一个800多岁学生可能这样做，就是文化的问题。对，
谢谢老师。
就是说你可以不理他是吧？他提这个要求你可以不理他，我要继续教我的那你的问题
对，因为你是成年人，你是成年人吧？
时间
应该关注自己的生活。
对，时间确定了，
明白了，学到了。
对，
谢谢老师们。
你问了很好的问题挺好的。
对，我也觉得。
还
有吗？
老师，我有一个问题。
你问谁呀？
什么
？What the question addressed for？ 谁这么多老师
？Albert, it's me.
For me.
Yeah.
Please. Yeah. Please forgive me. I will try my best to ask you this in Chinese.
Take your time. It's okay.
怎么办？你就在中国，就在中国，你觉得很难吗？Like, what do you think about the teaching in Chinese in China? Your experience in China. I can't answer.
So teaching style. Okay.
No, how's your experience? Sorry.
Oh, my experience.
Yes.
Learning in China. My experience.
Teaching
in China. Teaching in China. Well, when I was teaching in China, I was teaching English, so it's a much different experience than teaching Chinese. And I think it's a little bit easier for us teaching English and Chinese versus maybe teaching a native Chinese speaker teaching Chinese here, because Chinese children start learning English from very, 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 very young. From the time they hit preschool, they're learning English. So their grasp of the English language is maybe a little bit better. They have a better foundation for teaching English. So really and truly, you are mostly focusing on their oral Chinese, how they pronounce English, English, their oral English, how they pronounce the words, making sure that they say them correctly. In terms of grammar and stuff like that, they learn that in school and they learn it pretty well. So, which is why we have so many of our student teachers that can speak English here, because they've been learning it for so long, right? But for us, we have only just started putting Chinese in schools. So it takes a lot more effort and a lot more time to teach Chinese here, I think. Even for me as a Beijing teacher, it takes a lot more effort to teach students Chinese here than it would teaching English there. So if at any time you wanted to teach English, if you got the opportunity to go to China, you wouldn't have problems. Don't say bullshit, because a lot of students end up teaching English when they're in China, because it's a very easy way to make money. But yeah, but the experience is a little bit different, but it's not that hard.
但是因为我说汉语的时候，我非常紧张 ，very nervous，所以我觉得不是，但是谢谢。
不客气。
I think you would want to make a comment. Yeah.
This is also in response to Amber's question, but Alex, Miss Payne did a very good job answering. The main difference is that in China and in Chinese schools, students tend to begin learning English at a much younger age and for a longer period of time. So the main challenges you may experience, it's not theoretical, but practical. So on the theoretical side, if you ask them to write something or to answer questions or to do multiple choice, they can be done really in a flash. Because in Chinese schools, middle school, high school, stuff like that, you're accustomed to doing a lot of written work. But if you ask them to have a discussion, have a presentation,
conversation,
conversationally wise, that's where the challenge is. That's where the challenge really appears, because you may have the theoretical foundation, but if you don't have the actual practice to put what you've learned into work, that's where the little challenge comes from. But it's not insurmountable. Actually, it's quite fun, because you're just helping students to realize that what you've learned in your textbooks and what you've done with your grammar and your questions is actually what you use to speak to people. So it's basically like you're helping them to recognize that this is a living language, and people use it to buy stuff, to go things, to say whatever. It's a similar situation here for non-native Chinese speakers learning Chinese. Whatever you learn in your textbook, that's really how everyone lives in China. You have to say these things to get by. So that's mainly the main challenge, just to cross this divide between theory and practice. At least in my experience.
Thank you, Tyrone. You actually made me think of another point. I find that we take longer to learn Chinese. We take longer to learn Chinese than Chinese take to learn English. But we are better able to hold conversations, and I think it comes down to learning style.
Yes,
especially in Barbados, we're very big on
speaking.
Don't just show me, tell me, right? So we are always encouraged to apply what you are learning in your actual life. So we understand that everything that I'm reading, I have to at some point use. So you end up with being able to internalize it and put it out better, right? But for Chinese, a lot of the time, because they're learning English for so long, it becomes, as Tyrone said, just something else to learn. It's not something that you might use. A lot of Chinese learn English for years, but then they don't get an opportunity to practice it, because you just learn it in school and that's it, unless you're somebody like your teachers here that are actually doing it in university and actually will use it in their jobs. So that's another difference, I think, when it comes to maybe learning Chinese versus learning English and teaching Chinese versus teaching English. Like teaching styles and learning styles, I think are two of the most important things when it comes to students and teachers. And I think it's neglected a lot. I think we just teach how we teach and think that that's it. But that's not necessarily the way to go. You have to match your teaching style to your students' learning style. It's a little bit difficult to understand at first, but when you get it, you'll realize that your students learn way faster and you teach a lot better. Yeah. So that was a really good question. Any more questions before I turn it back over to Ava?
我们的小老师们还有没有什么想问一问安乐的？如果没有的话，我们就刚刚 just now there are also 3 students came back and we still have the Farhan Jerda and the Romario and those still 3 students could you share something with us about the holiday class? Jerda, would you go first? Could you go first? Jerda, could you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hey.
Sorry to be late. So based on the homework that we had, everyone can hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mine might not be completely fluent Chinese. It might be like Chinglish. So Chinese or English. Bear with me. Thank you. The news that I wanted to share was I loved the class. I loved everything about it, especially since my tutor I share a love of food. So it was a good class. The problems that I met during the class were that 我要十几步就 dance. I couldn't remember some of the Chinese words, but after practicing them, sometimes I would remember, or if I associated them with something that I preferred or I liked, or day-to-day tasks, as you all were talking about earlier, I remember things. The new things that I have learned. I learned how to order from a menu. I learned how to call for certain things or how to distinguish what foods were which, are also about the transportation, like the bullet train, the Wi-Fi, how to scan your passport, where to go, how to use the applications like Didi, and then it was another one. Also about the supermarkets and different markets that they have, and certain things that I can do within the markets that I can't do within like different major supermarkets. Also, the most interesting part of my class was about the food, the canteens and the restaurants, and how to order in the restaurants, or say that I like this, or I want this, or I don't want this, or 我想不 something, or 我想 this, or 我想 that. The teaching style was through videos and PowerPoints. So she sent us videos about persons doing vlogs throughout China about the things that she was teaching us about, like people ordering from menus, persons taking the bullet train, which was very interesting. It also helped me to associate the words with what the persons were doing in the videos. What I want to know more about the holiday class is if it happening again, and if this time for a longer period or different hours, because it was very fun to interact
with her, my teacher in particular. And I think it's a good experience for persons like me that might be a little slow with the language. So that was good. My opinion about the holiday class was it was fun and it was interesting, and she helped us a lot based on our likes, and it caught my attention mostly because they had food a lot. So what I want to say to my teacher is 谢谢，我喜欢上课. Here is my introduction. I mean, my homework. Thank you.
Thank you, Jada. Great through your sharing. We know you got a lot of new things through the 2 classes. You have a very great experience through the Chinese holiday class. Great. Thank you, Jada. Thank you, teacher. And now we still have Farhan. Farhan, would you like to share something with us?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
大家好. So I really enjoyed the holiday classes. I learned a lot. We learned a lot about what to do when we land and how to actually get to Suzhou. I didn't know that there wasn't an airport in Suzhou, so learning the way to get there once we land was very helpful. I also enjoyed learning about the different cuisines, Sai, spicy food, fried food, and also the mild tasting food, which was my favorite. I also really enjoy learning about the different apps that we would be using, such as Taobao and Meituan, to order, takeout, and shop online. The problems in class, there weren't any, just me having trouble adjusting to the early classes. So I apologize for being late. I'll try to attend on time. And my opinion on the holiday class, very good. I think this should become a regular thing. It's very helpful. If there's anything I want to know, it would be the same as Jada. If we're going to keep it going through the semester, if it's only going to be a holiday class thing, and so forth. 谢谢.
Great, 非常好，谢谢Farhan. Give you some claps, great. And we know that you think the holiday class is very helpful for your Chinese learning, and maybe the next time we will find another opportunity for that. Great, thanks a lot for our students. And now let's have the teacherly Grace to say something to us, to give a conclusion. Welcome.
Hi, thank you everybody. Hi, 大家好，我一直在非常专注的听啊。I have been focusing the whole time. Only interrupted by David sometimes, but I feel so happy that from student teachers, also from our student, and also from our teachers, Chinese teachers here, local teachers, Chinese teachers. Everybody said this program is a success, right? So thank you all. I have to I have to add some point. I reached to teacher Wen, who is our coordinator of this program. I think that's only 1 month ago. I cannot give you the exact time, but that is only 1 month, around 1 month, and we are able to do it. So we make it. So that is wonderful. This thanks for everybody's co-active, play a very active part in this. Teachers doing good preparation for your class, well prepared. I attended 3 classes. I forgot. Sorry to Mo 老师. I thought I have every class video or pictures, but I noticed that I attended your class, but I don't know why. Maybe because of 2 computers. I definitely have something for you. So the pictures and the videos, some short videos also quietly. I just shared. All of you did a good job, very good, and your class is well organized. Your English is much better than me. Even you are just a student, still have little or not so much experience in teaching Chinese. Especially in English. And I will say you are a great generation. 非常好啊。然后 you take this job seriously, right? So you do. I think every the 3 classes doing the similar thing, right? The second class similar thing about the food, 护照、学生卡. You are doing, how to say, 集体备课, right? You make it, you made 集体备课, right? Similar so we have to learn something from you, how to prepare the class, right? To have each teacher, every local teacher, Chinese teachers work collaboratively. In the meantime, to how to do the 集体备课, right? So we can continue our discussion. Keep talking, and you are very patient, and you are in the classroom. The atmosphere, 课堂的气氛, right, is very hot, and like Alex told the 3. So I don't know whether I keep the main point is engage your student, relate your student, and interactive. Always remember, always keep in your mind, interactive. Keep your student, take part in your class. That could very good atmosphere in the learning experience, learning environment. Right, so that is the from the teachers. And also I saw the student, you are excellent student. Even it's a holiday class. I know here Barbados people want to relax, right? And you are learning, you are taking classes, right? So in the at least 2 classes. Some team have 3, right? 第一组是不是有3节课？哪几个组？都是2节课是吗？Perfect. I know student are helping. You are helping. You or create a Zoom link, right? We overcome a lot of difficulties. The time zone, time difference. Also, we find the Zoom link, right? Student can help to create a Zoom link. So a lot of collaborative work, cooperation, about the time, about the things you would like to know. So thank you all from the student side also. So everybody's put effort into this program, made it possible. So thank you all again. And also I am so happy that I think student can learn something. Student teacher can benefit from this teaching, right? You learn experience, especially today, the 2 local teachers, like Alex and Yewood, you are helping, and I find it very helpful to after even me, I learned something from Alex's comment, Alex's presentation. I asked her to do some to prepare something like any topic. I know her. I know she will give us something, right? So today she gave us a lot. She made it. Thank you, Alex. So that's the 3 points I want to from bottom of my heart. And also another one more thing, I think we could continue the working, like just now a teacher said that a student said that he would like to continue, right? I think it's he speaks from all on behalf of all students, also from me, from our Confucius Institute, from the Teacher Way, right? So we can continue because China now is in the holiday. Holidays for Spring Festival, 春节, and we here Barbados just the start of a new semester. And I on behalf of David, we would like to continue it. We already continue it for 3 years. And I will be very happy if Beijing Language and Culture University student teacher, this program can help us, right? So for the summer period, let's just say this from June and August and September, that long period, maybe take that should be a longer time, 1 month something. This is only how to say more than 1 week, but next time it's should be a longer time. Let's continue. I know you have a lot of things in your mind, and you have other arrangement. Just we have our invitation. Now I have the invitation, right? So keep that in your mind. Think about Confucius Institute. Think about Barbadian people. Think about Barbadian students. You have students here. You are related, right? So if you are available, yeah, please help us. I think that's all. And thank you, Eva. You are just arrived here on Saturday. You worked so hard. We work. I hope we don't work you too hard. All right. That's all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, Teacher Lee gave our very good conclusion about our this times holidays in Chinese.
Yeah. Sorry, I should say also another one very importantly, Teacher Wen. Sorry for her her dad's message, but I think she is strong enough, but she still attended our morning session first part. Yeah, so we should do better. We should have done. I think I have to say for the first part, I try to just try to help. I didn't think about this program so formally, so strictly, to be honest. Right? So, but with the help of Teacher Wayne is very serious,非常认真, and she guarantee the quality of this program. I agree. So this one help CI here, Barbados CI, to lift our work for higher level. Thanks for Teacher Wayne. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt.
And thanks a lot for all the student teachers and our students. I know in China it's very late. Late. It's in the evening, so the student teacher is maybe a little tired. Thanks a lot to join today's Zoom meeting. Thanks a lot for your whole holidays, hard working, prepared very well. Thanks a lot, and we also hope to continue this program. Hope to see all of you another time. And at last, we would like all the students and the teachers open the camera. Let's have a picture.
Yeah. So say something like 新春快乐 You have spring 祝福，新春祝福啊。
艾乐，你会录这个吗？我还不是特别会操作。
啊，我在录，然后艾乐最好也录一下，我在录呢。
好。
Yeah， 然后我们 just have something big up， 啊，以免呢没录上。我们可以一起说新春快乐啊。
Yesterday we have learned 新年快乐。Yes, still remember.
新年快乐。
对，很好。
啊，我们一起对中国的老师们说新年快乐哦，新春快乐，魏老师，新春快乐，新春快乐，
春
啊 ，so who want to say this one？
春节快乐，
新春，啊，or
新春快乐，
新春快乐 ，OK， so if you can do this, you can do it
好。新春快乐！我们要怎么开始？
你说开始，你说开始，我们就开始。
我们前面要起个什么样的头？
你1、2、3就行了。
好 ，OK. Now I say 1, 2, 3, and all the students and teachers say 新春快乐 together. OK. Let's have a try. OK. 1、2、3。
新春快乐
！OK, one more time. OK, 1、2、3，
新春快乐
！OK, great, thank you, 谢谢，非常感谢大家，谢谢。
中国的老师可以休息了，然后伊文，你是不是还要跟学生商量上课的事儿？
对，
时间的事儿。
好的，我谢谢 ，Thank you our student teachers. Bye. Hope to see you.
Student can stay. 他们会走的。
Yes, student do not leave. Do not.
Yeah, please stay.
好的。
And so 我们走啦，你们继续商量。艾乐，我们可以退了。Taryn, you stay here. You still with student.
Yes, we need to discuss.
Yes, please. 再见。
再见。
拜拜。
Do not leave, my dear student. Yesterday, yes, it's Jada. Yesterday, because why I see Jada is, let me check, is about